So today on Receptive Radio, we're talking with Linda Binns, energy coach and feng shui practitioner for over 26 years. And she really helps highly sensitive, empathic individuals step into their power and embrace their potential, realize their potential. And I'm so honored to have her as a guest today. Welcome, Linda. I said your name right?
You did. Thank you
Oh,
so much,
good.
Jennifer.
Good.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good, good. So, welcome to Receptive Radio, your tuning station. This is for coaches, spiritual seekers, soulpreneurs, and professionals who want to lead with their heart in business. So, Linda, since you work with people who are highly sensitive, maybe they're introverted and empathic, what are some of the things, the problems that these people face on a regular basis?
I think, apart from the typical, which is having always felt very different or being told they're very different or told there's something wrong with them, I think the common factor for people who seek me out is that by the time people come to me, they have usually tried, they're stuck or they want to change something and things are not working out, but they've tried everything. The people who come to me know a lot. They've studied a lot. They've taken many programs. They've followed all the steps and the guidelines, and they either have not made progress or things seem to have got worse. And so the only conclusion they can come to is there must be something wrong with me, or, I'm not working hard enough, or there's something I'm missing. So I always say, a lot of times the people who come to me are so aware, they know so much, they could teach half of my classes probably, or they know a lot, but what they don't know is how to apply it to themselves in a way that's going to be effective. Because what we tend to do is follow the steps everybody else says, this worked for me, so follow these steps and it will work for you. But what if it doesn't? And so for that group of highly sensitive people, which is about 20 to 30% of the population, things work differently. Things are just different. So we have to figure out what that means.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like, I'm one of your clients at one point in my life where, we're probably high achievers as well, the people that are your clients. And we know how to study, we know how to follow instructions, and we know how to apply what we are taught. And then when it doesn't work, it becomes extremely frustrating. Yes. And we're doing it. Like, what is the problem? Yeah. Can you talk a bit more about that frustration that your client has?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an incredible frustration because you know you're doing everything right. You know you're doing things the same way as other people, or as other people tell you to. And you might see other people getting the results that you want and maybe putting in half the effort, that you are. And the only conclusion you can come to is, well, I'm either missing something or there's something wrong with me. And the real issue is, you cannot, it's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. So as one of the 20 to 30% of the population who is highly sensitive, things you do, you are different. So you have to really understand what that means for you, what that difference is. And then how do you show up? How do you incorporate that? How can you show up as your true, authentic self? And if you try to fit into other people's expectations, other people's models, other people's blueprints for success, it won't work. It is like putting a square peg in a round hole. So this is why it's so important. I think it's important for everybody, but particularly for highly sensitive people, to truly understand what that means for them. Because you could say highly sensitive, it's different for everybody. Everybody has different degrees of sensitivity, different ways that it shows up, different ways that it affects them. But it's all about finding out who they are. What does high sensitivity mean for them? And how can they apply the knowledge that they have to themselves in a way that will work for them. Self-awareness is at the core of everything,
Right.
especially for highly sensitive people. You have to know yourself at the deepest levels. And for me, working with energy is the best way, because everything is energy. And as a highly sensitive person, you are affected much more deeply by all kinds of energy, all the energy around you. And so the more you understand that and learn how to master that for yourself, then you can show up as your true self and start to see things flowing and falling into place for you.
I love how you put it. And it is becoming a master of your energy and being able to manage it when you're alone, when you're in, group environments, when you travel, when you're on stage, everywhere, and you become really a master of yourself. Can you tell us a story about you and how you, as a highly sensitive person, created your work based on what you discovered about energy management? And
yes, I'll try and keep it brief. But growing up, I was the black sheep. I wasn't the same as everybody else. And so the messages I heard constantly were, oh, you're just too sensitive, or just get over it, or why can't you be more like so-and-so, or why can't you just, fit in, and so I learned early on to shut myself down, really. I became a master at being invisible. And it was really just to survive in my environment. I just always thought there was something wrong with me. And then when I started working and I went out into the world to work, I was terrified constantly that at any moment people would see there was something wrong with me, and then they wouldn't want me there anymore. And actually the opposite happened, and people would tell me what a great job I did. I would be promoted. Because I took, and this is a common, very often highly sensitive people can be perfectionists, and we put 110% of ourselves into whatever it is that we do. And that's exactly what I did. And so often at work, people would bring things to me to do when they should really have taken them to somebody else. But because I was always wanting to be busy, I would just do it and I would take it on. And so that was the first, I suppose, starting point of me beginning to question what I had been led to believe, that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't capable of anything, that I should be more like other people. That was the beginning of it. I really didn't know at that point what to do with it. But as I went on through life, I started studying holistic nutrition. I started studying feng shui purely for my own interest, and I realized I had this interest in energy of the body, the energy of our environment. And I got so excited by that because I started to experience changes as I applied what I was learning. And I just thought, I need to share this information. And I thought, well, I want to have a business doing this, going out and talking to people and sharing this information. Had no idea about how to start a business or what that meant or anything. I just knew I had to share the information. And I was chronically shy. I mean, the thing that terrified me the most was standing and talking in front of a group of people. But I made myself do it because it was about the information, and I wanted people to know what I had learned and see how it might help them. So, and I didn't even know about the term high sensitivity for a long time. It just seemed that as I look back, once I learned about that term and what it meant, and it finally made sense of who I am and everything really that had happened to me, I started to realize that the people who were naturally drawn to me were highly sensitive people.
Right. Yeah. That's so fascinating. And you've gone on to accomplish, like, you've written 8 books on energy and love and like finding energetic solutions for everyday challenges. And that's all geared towards highly sensitive people. And in those books, you really talk about yourself a lot. Is how did you like, that's an accomplishment, 8 books. How did you do that?
Well, see, in typical highly sensitive person fashion, that doesn't seem like a huge accomplishment to me,
Really?
because the writing of the books was the easy part for me, because in many respects, and I wrote most of them, except the last one, because other people asked me to write them.
Oh,
And that's
really?
why I wrote them. It was not because I thought I had something that people would want to read about. Or, you get all this imposter syndrome of, well, who am I to write a book, and I'm not a writer. And I still say that today, even though I have 8 books. I am not a writer. A writer is someone who when they write, it's eloquent and it sounds beautiful, and it's just constructed. What they write is constructed in a beautiful way. That's not me. I can put thoughts down on paper, but then I need someone to make sense of all of that. But the writing of it, you see, for me, the doing is much easier than what you do afterwards. So now I've got a book. Okay, now I have to go out and promote it and market it and tell people about it. That's the harder part for me.
Yeah.
So if you say to me, oh, why don't you write a book on this? If it feels like a good idea to me, I would do it. And I might have it done, well, depending on what kind of book it was, by the end of the week, by the end of the month. It wouldn't take me that long.
Really?
Probably.
So is that a common thing with highly sensitive people? Like, they can turn around work, like they're productive. Their ability to be productive and implement is fast?
Very often, yes. And they are able to complete things, to accomplish things, and they don't see it as an accomplishment, because it's just something they can do. And so because it comes naturally, they don't see it as a big deal. I mean, often when I start working with people and I start looking at asking them, what they've done, what they feel good about in their life, and very often they minimize everything. They will deflect their accomplishments, and it's not until we really start digging deeply into that they maybe start to see, wow, I've actually accomplished a lot. And there's a lot I'm capable of, but they don't see it normally.
Because it's second nature to them. It doesn't appear as an accomplishment, but to other people, it is a huge accomplishment. And is there something like, it's kind of like there's a disconnect in a self-worth and self-esteem and confidence, because you're not seeing and recognizing how capable you are? Is that a problem?
That can be part of the problem. And so they often think what they think is their problem is never usually the problem. So often people will come to me, for example, thinking they have a time management problem, or I have a motivation problem, or I have I'm easily distracted kind of problem. That's never the problem. It's always that they're disconnected from themselves and they're not putting their energy into the right things. But it is such a common thing. It's hard to explain it, really. It's just that something that comes so naturally to you that you do it without thinking. It just makes sense to you, so you just do it, and other people may be blown away by it. I worked with a business coach once, and she would often say to me, oh my gosh, I've never had a client like you. She said, if I suggest, it would be a good idea to write an ebook on this, or put together, a program on that, I'll probably have it done by the end of the day or the next day. And that, to me, that just seemed, she's asked me to do this, so I'm going to do it. And, I'm going to do it right away. I'm paying her for her guidance, so why wouldn't I do it right away? I didn't ever think that wasn't normal. Right. I thought, wouldn't everybody do that? But I've come to realize that no, not everybody is the same way. Some people, I think many people, have more challenges with creating something like writing a book or something like that than they do with other areas where I might struggle. But I remember having a client one time who's really talented leadership coach. And she would have companies, high-level companies that would ask her to come back time and time again. And then she started writing a book. She wanted to write a book. And about halfway through the book, all the self-doubt started to creep in. And she was saying, well, what if nobody wants to read it? What if people don't like it? What if they think it's not worth anything? And I asked her to look back at the clients she'd worked with and the feedback she'd received from them and why they kept asking her back. And do you think that's because they don't value you and that you have nothing to offer? And then she was able to see, the disconnect and to really see it. And then she was able to go on and complete the book. But that's the kind of thing that comes up for us all the time. We doubt ourselves and our abilities.
Yeah. And it gets in the way. It slows us down, and especially if we aren't working with a coach, if we don't have somebody like you or me who's cheering you on or helping you to see the blind spots, then you might stay stuck for a couple of years or totally give up on finishing that project, or stay in a work environment or even a relationship that is not good or healthy for you. And highly sensitive people, I know myself as a highly sensitive person, I would often think that it is my problem, but it actually has nothing to do with me. It's somebody else's problem. But I would always try to change myself in order to fit into the situation to make it keep working. And it always proved fatal to me. But it never worked.
Anytime you try to change yourself, I had a communication with somebody online this morning where, she had been told that if you just changed yourself, you'd get on better with this person, right? And it's like, why do I have to change myself? If somebody else can't handle me or can't be around me, is that my issue?
Yeah.
No, it's their issue. And so we do, though, we contort ourselves trying to fit into other people's expectations and not wanting to make other people feel uncomfortable.
And it really hides the authentic self.
It does. And I mean, I was told once, and it was by, she didn't mean it in a mean way. She was just giving me some feedback, I guess you could say. And she said that she was intimidated by me. And this was it was a conference environment, and it was a 3-day conference, and I was the speaker on the final day. And so because I'm highly sensitive and I pick up on other people's energy, I'm also an introvert. So networking is not my natural thing. I don't easily go around chatting to people, but because I was trying to preserve my energy so that I could give my best at my presentation on the final day, I was maybe a little quieter than normal. So I was just participating. I was fully present. I was there. I was participating. But I think people often see that sometimes, when you're quiet, when you're not saying anything, or something like that, they can be intimidated by that. Also, I think many times with highly sensitive people, I'm sure you've experienced this, you pick up on things in other people that nobody else picks up on. You see things, or you just a facial expression, or just a minute thing that stands out to you, but wouldn't necessarily to someone else, and that can be intimidating to people. So it's almost like, I don't know, what is this voodoo? How do you know that? Or how do you know to ask that question? Or how do you know to say this thing? You just know it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be scary. And I love what you're saying, is because that intimidating factor, I've had that a lot too, where people have, seen me on Zoom. And it's interesting. They've seen me on Zoom in a group event. And then for some reason, when they see me in person, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were so intimidating." And I start,
I know.
Before I would take it personal.
Right.
And go into this like, "Oh, I have to change myself again. I'm not good enough," and all that kind of stuff. Beat myself up until I realized No, I'm just mirroring something that they're seeing that
Mm.
they like, that they want for themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that I'm intimidating, and it's just a word that they used.
Yeah.
They
Well,
didn't know what other word to say maybe.
yeah, and it can be, it can be stories that we all make up stories, don't we? When we encounter somebody or we're in a situation, it could be the story of, well, is she judging me? Or does
Right.
she think she's better than me somehow? Or something like that,
Yeah.
which is not true at all. But sometimes we project those stories onto people and situations.
Yeah. And for highly sensitive people who, even if we don't know it, like even if you don't know about managing your energy, you're still tracking energy. Like you are an expert at energy. And it's one of
Oh,
those
yeah.
accomplishments that you haven't acknowledged for yourself, that you're an expert at this.
Right.
And I want to touch on, you tell us about your energy assessing. Like tell us more about energy assessment and being aware of that.
Well, I think, when things are not, especially when things are not working out as you want them to or as you think they should, it's really, really helpful to take a look at where you're putting your energy. And when I say, the more you can understand what's happening with your energy and the energy around you, the more control you have, the more power you have, the more you can make empowered choices. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so your energy, we're looking at things like, what are the thoughts that are going around in your head? And those thoughts are created by the beliefs and the conditioning that you have. So having an understanding of that helps you understand the energy that you are projecting, right? The energy that you are putting out. Having an understanding of the energy in the space that you're in and how that is impacting you as a highly sensitive person. I'm sure there are some environments you can walk into and you immediately feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you may not know why, but you're picking up on the energy of that environment. There could be somewhere else you walk into and you feel immediately safe and calm, right? So you pick up more on the energy of environment, but then there's also the energy of the people around you, and how you're responding to that or reacting to that, and how that is impacting you. Because as a highly sensitive person, very often what we will do is we will feel other people's energy. And if you don't know that, and you don't recognize, not only when you feel it, but if you're an empath as well, you may take that on without knowing about it. So if you're in a meeting, for example, and somebody in that meeting is having a really hard time at home and they're maybe angry about something, you may find yourself leaving that meeting suddenly feeling angry, and you're thinking, where does this come from? Right? And you think it's yours, but it may not be. And then we can take on the energy of our family, any challenges that they have. We can absorb all of that. And if you are not aware of that, it's really hard to let it go because you think it's yours and it isn't. And the harder you try to make progress with it, sometimes that's the first thing I have to do with somebody, is help them to see that the energy they've been trying to work with was not theirs. And then as we release that, then they can start to make progress with their own stuff. So that's what I mean by understanding energy. But it has to start with you first, understanding where you're putting your energy. And you can look at the different areas of your life, and you can easily tell what energy is where, because when you think about, I think about my finances, I think about my health, I think about my social life, I think about my relationship. Energetically speaking, what do I feel about each of those areas? So if I'm a 10 and everything's wonderful, that's great. Energy is good in that area. But maybe I'm a 3 or a 2 in the area of finances, for example. And clearly, the energy that I'm putting into that is not in alignment with who I really am. And so once I'm aware of that, I can start to change some things, if that makes sense. So it's really
It makes sense.
understanding your energy and what you're putting out there and how that determines what shows up for you.
Yeah. And so you've created this personal energy assessment, you call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put a link in the chat. after the show for you to get it. So Linda, tell us how, when they click on that link, is it 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Or do you get a report back once you click on that link?
Yeah, so it's literally, it's a Google form. So it's very simple. It'll take you I would say less than 5 minutes. It's all, so it lists out each area of your life, and it asks you how you feel about each area on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is great, 1 is really awful. And really that's it's just a beginning point to give you a picture of, energetically speaking, what's my life look like? How do I feel about it? And it's a great starting point because we don't often think about that. We're so busy just trying to make progress and go through the day to day that we rarely stop and do a check-in.
Right.
And so it brings that first piece of clarity. So at the end of the assessment, I ask people, okay, now you've been through that, how do you feel about that? And some people will say, oh, I'm feeling quite hopeful. And somebody else might say, oh, I'm just realizing, how much work I need to do, or something like that. So it just gives you a picture. And what you decide to do with that information that you now have, that clarity you've gained, is up to you. But it helps you just see an overview of what's going on for you.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something like that personal energy assessment is something we should basically be doing daily.
Yes.
It's something we need to be looking at for ourselves on a regular basis to see, when you do start working with Linda or another energy coach, then you can see your progress too. Like you can manage your progress by how you are watching your energy. And I like how you put it. It's like finding energetic solutions for everyday challenges.
Yes. That's
so
it.
That's it. It's just like if you can zone in on your energy, which energy is really everything. Like we forget that it's all energy, and our interpretation of the energy, how it makes us feel, what we're thinking, the pains in our bodies or the flow in our bodies. Energy is moving all the time, but it also can get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just such a helpful thing for you on a day-to-day basis to have an awareness of energy. So let's say you get up in the morning and you're feeling great and ready to start the day, and then later on in the morning you find, oh, I don't feel so good. What happened? Just having that understanding, that ability to pause and say, wait a minute, my energy is not the same as it was this morning. So what happened? What do I need to pay attention to? Perhaps if somebody said something to you and now there's some kind of trigger that's happened within you, which is an opportunity to release something that's not serving you. So having this ability to pay attention to your energy, what you're feeling. I mean, we have this amazing system, if you like, that is giving us clues all the time about what we need to pay attention to, right? So if you're feeling great and everything's flowing really well, you are in the flow, everything's in alignment. But when you don't feel good, when there's something that's off, instead of forcing your way through it or trying to snap out of it, pay attention to it because it's telling you something. So this is how understanding, and this is the energy mastery piece. And it may be, to some people it sounds difficult because energy is not something you see, but it's certainly something you feel. But this is really, it's very simple, it's very practical. It makes a lot of sense once I share with people the steps that they can take, the things that they can do. It's not something that's way out there. It's just normal, everyday, practical things that you could do, taking responsibility for your energy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Taking responsibility for your energy, and also acknowledging that you're highly sensitive and empathic, and a high achiever, and you are accomplishing a lot, and really developing those gifts so that they're working for you every day, every day.
Yeah.
Linda, thank you so much for coming on Receptive Radio. I love how you look at energy, how you interpret it, and how you can help people like me, professionals who are, really have big dreams.
Yeah.
Like people who have big dreams and really are interested in realizing their potential and going after those dreams. And you're really very supportive, guiding light. You empower us to notice even more about ourselves, and that we don't have to change to fit into anyone else's box. That's
No.
what I love to hear, is that you
No.
don't have to change. It's just understanding your energy, understanding your gifts of sensitivity, because I really think sensitivity is a gift. It's a gift that we all need to hone more.
It is a huge gift. And I admit, I did used to think of it sometimes as a challenge or as something that needed to be fixed, because I know what we want is we want, because I grew up with no self-esteem or confidence or anything, I just wanted to be like everybody else. I just wanted to fit in and not be really stand out, And now I see, it's about being the best me that I can be, the best you that you can be. It's not about trying to blend in and fit in and be the same as everybody else. It's not about that at all. You are not like anybody else. So let's explore what that means and let you be the best you that you can possibly be. That's why you're here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So many people need to just be the best you that you are, and, radiate your uniqueness, because
That's
it's your superpower. It's your potential that helps everyone else. It's of service to everyone else.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Linda, for being on Receptive Radio. And thank you to our viewers that are listening and watching this. I will put the link for the personal energy assessment that Linda has created. And then I'm sure you can get in touch. I'm going to also put contact information for Linda if you're interested in connecting with her more and working with her to realize your potential and go after those big dreams. I'm so thankful for you on the show. Thank you so much, Linda.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. It's been my pleasure to be here. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, I always love talking to you.
Thank you.